Hi, I'm Richard. I'm the Mercian Pilgrim. Today I am just outside Bewdley at a place called Dowles Graveyard. This place has got a bit of a reputation for the spooky and a little bit of devil worship, and there's a couple of stories. Let's take a look around. I'm walking in the graveyard now, and I'll pan the camera around, give you a bit of a shot. There's been something on this site since we certainly know the late 12th century, and that was a Norman church. This place has got an atmosphere, it really has. That church lasted till about the 18th century, whereupon it was demolished. The church, I believe St Andrew's, that was then put on this site lasted till about the 1950s, and then it was demolished again. Since then, the site's been disused and is now overgrown, but is very, very atmospheric. I've turned the camera for this part because what I want to talk about is this, which is major distinguishing feature of this churchyard. What you're looking at is a mort safe. Now, this is a device intended to prevent grave robbing. So any one of these other graves, as you can see, could be dug up quite easily. But this one, not so easy. Some say this was the grave of a child, others the grave of a dwarf. With no headstone, and after so many years, we're unlikely to ever know the truth about who lies in this earth. Dowles Graveyard itself is just near the main road leading out of Bewdley, and if my sense of direction is correct, we are to the north of Bewdley. The River Severn is behind me, and ahead of me, you can probably hear it, is the main road. As I turn, I see good heavens, a profusion of wild garlic. So this is undoubtedly moist, suitable ground. And if we take a closer look, that's definitely ready to be picked. For my part, I'll leave that alone. I have a local woodland that I can use for my own supply. Now, raising the camera as I should have and moving around, I'm just going to come round here. This is the only building that is actually left standing. The churchyard, the church apparently, is down to the foundations. And this is called the parish house. Though I have heard that this was actually a very small schoolhouse. Whatever, it appears to be used for drinking and whatever else. I'll exit via the main entrance. As was said, this place is supposed to have been used for devil worship, though frankly, anyone can paint a pyramid and a pentacle. One of the cases to do with this graveyard, and I say that because somewhere in here is apparently a monument marked Dovey, was the case of a lady called Joyce Dovey. Dovey was reported in the 1640s to have been possessed by the devil, and this report came from a letter between a man and his brother. Look, I'm stepping over things here. Dovey is reputed to have responded when challenged by Christian ministers with swearing and blood and violence. She is reputed to have thrown herself onto a fire, but was removed from the fire without any human assistance. She's reputed to have taken a knife and scissors to her own skin and left not a mark. And finally, crosses are reputed to have appeared on her, to the horror of the people present. I'm using the word reputed a lot because really that's all we have. There's not one shred of physical evidence for any of this, and it has to be pointed out that really this is very highly likely to be a woman who may well have simply been ill. An illness that was misunderstood, a mental illness that was misunderstood at the time, and went untreated. What we do know is that her family was wealthy enough to hire someone to keep an eye on her, and a monument in the name of Dovey, as I say, was erected in this graveyard somewhere. The church that was here had someone by the name of Dovey helped to pay for a new loft in there and was permitted to sit in this loft during services. So that, and the fact that it was considered worth mentioning by two people in a letter, would say to me it was a family with some money. In any event, we're highly unlikely ever to know the truth of what really happened to Joyce Dovey. There is one more case to mention. One more person we need to talk about. A woman known as the Bewdley Witch, a woman by the name of Susan Warren, who was active also in the 1600s, which is interesting because that's a correlation with Joyce Dovey. Now, Warren was reputedly so evil that she grew 3-inch horns from the back of her head. Yeah. Now, she apparently shed these ceremonially every 3 years, and over the course of her life shed about 8, maybe 9 sets. Some of these one pair wound up being tipped with silver by a collector, and another pair, possibly the same pair, is said to have ended up in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, though, as I understand it, there's no sign of them. Right. Now, this all sounds very devilish, but there is an explanation. There is a syndrome, a very rare condition known as cutaneous horns, which is where a very often non-malignant skin condition crops up, where keratin sprouts from the skin and takes the shape of a horn. Some people have them in other places than the head, and it is known. In fact, there were 2 other people in the United Kingdom, or Britain as it known specifically in England, and I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but I will put the names of the two women who had this and where they lived in a subtitle right under here. What is more likely, I think, with Susan Wogan is that she suffered this condition, was quite possibly ostracised, which wouldn't exactly help your health and temper any, would it? And as the condition couldn't be treated surgically, today it can be, but back then, in the 1600s, not a chance. She would simply have had to manage her condition and live with it until the day she died. I'm going to do a slow pan around here because you've seen an awful lot of me talking, but not a lot of the place itself. That immediately ahead of us is the parish house cum schoolhouse. Just further over there is the wild garlic. And panning the camera very slowly around as I pan and walk this way. There is the location of the Mort safe. The River Severn is literally just there. Okay, if you're still with me at this point, if you've watched this far, thank you. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you like what you see, give the like button a tap. And if you like what I do, the subscribe button awaits your attention. I'm just about done for this time. I've got somewhere else planned. In fact, I've got a big list of places planned. So, I'll see you next time. Stay safe.